Has someone you love been changing in ways that feel small but somehow unsettling? Maybe they're moving a little slower, forgetting things more often, or just don't seem like themselves. It's easy to chalk it up to aging, but what if these subtle shifts are actually the body's quiet way of preparing for the final chapter? The truth is, death in old age rarely comes out of nowhere. The body starts sending signals months, even a year before life reaches its end, but most families don't recognize them until it's too late. And that's the hardest part, looking back and realizing the signs were there all along, but no one saw them for what they were. That's why this conversation matters. In this video, we're going to talk about 6 early warning signs that often appear a year before an elderly loved one passes away. Some might be things you've already noticed but brushed aside. Others might surprise you, but recognizing them now gives you the chance to be more present, to create moments that matter, and to make sure their final days are filled with dignity, comfort, and love. Stay with us until the end, because when you know what to look for, you won't be caught off guard. You'll be able to cherish every moment, making the time you have left together truly count. Let's get started. 1. Significant weight loss, a silent warning. Have you noticed a loved one losing weight without trying? Maybe their favorite sweater hangs a little looser, or their belt needs an extra hole. Perhaps they used to love a big home-cooked meal but now barely touch their plate. It's easy to brush these changes off as just part of aging, but unintentional weight loss is often one of the earliest signs that the body is entering its final stage. At first, it might seem minor, but when weight loss happens too quickly, it's usually a sign that something deeper is going on. The body may no longer be absorbing nutrients properly, muscle mass starts to decrease, and vital systems begin slowing down. This isn't just about looking thinner, it's about a gradual loss of strength, making simple movements harder, increasing the risk of falls, and weakening the immune system. Another common reason for weight loss is a shift in appetite. If your loved one isn't eating the way they used to, it's not just a lack of interest in food. As the body prepares for its final transition, it stops sending strong hunger signals to the brain. Food doesn't taste the same, meals become less appealing, and portion sizes shrink. Over time, this lack of nutrition leads to even more weakness and fatigue. Then there's the role of underlying health conditions. Chronic illnesses like cancer, heart failure, or kidney disease often cause slow, unnoticed weight loss long before other symptoms appear. Even depression or cognitive decline can lead to eating less, creating a cycle where the body isn't getting the fuel it needs to keep going. Many families respond by encouraging their loved one to eat more, offering favorite dishes, adding supplements, or preparing high-calorie meals. But if the weight keeps dropping despite these efforts, it's important to recognize that this isn't just about food. The body is preparing for a deeper change, and at this stage, forcing large meals won't help. Instead, focusing on comfort, easy-to-eat foods, and hydration can make a bigger difference in preserving their well-being. If you've noticed your loved one losing weight, eating less, feeling weaker, or struggling with daily activities, it's time to pay attention. This isn't just about physical appearance, it's a message from their body. Understanding that message now can help you prepare for what's ahead with love, patience, and the chance to make every moment truly count. 2. Extreme fatigue and weakness, a gentle shift toward rest. I remember the moment I realized something had changed with my grandmother. She had always been the type to wake up early, brew a fresh pot of coffee, and hum her favorite old tunes as she moved around the house. But one day she simply stayed in bed longer than usual. At first I thought she was just having a slow morning, but as the weeks went by, that morning slowness became her new normal. Fatigue in the final year of life isn't just about feeling tired. It's a deep, almost unshakable exhaustion that no amount of rest can fix. I watched as my grandmother, once so independent, found even the simplest tasks overwhelming. Walking to the kitchen felt like a marathon. Holding a conversation drained her. Dressing up for the day became something she had to psyche herself up for. This wasn't just aging, it was her body shifting gears. As the heart works less efficiently and oxygen doesn't reach the muscles like it used to, energy becomes a rare resource. The body starts prioritizing only what's absolutely necessary. It's why so many elderly individuals begin sleeping more, dozing off during the day, or struggling to keep their eyes open even during conversations. But what struck me the most wasn't just the physical toll, it was the emotional one. My grandmother, who had always been so proud of her independence, started feeling frustrated. I could see it in her eyes when she needed help with something she used to do effortlessly. She began withdrawing, speaking less, spending more time in her favorite chair by the window instead of at the dining table with us. Not because she didn't want to be there, but because even being present was exhausting. It's heartbreaking to witness. And for families, it's easy to mistake this fatigue for disinterest or even laziness. But pushing them to just try harder won't change the reality. What they need is understanding. Instead of urging them to do more, we can focus on making their days as peaceful and comfortable as possible. If someone you love is experiencing this kind of deep exhaustion, take it as a sign that their body is transitioning. Cherish the quiet moments, whether it's sitting beside them in silence, holding their hand, or simply letting them rest without expectation. Because in the end, it's not about how much they can do. It's about making sure they feel loved, supported, and at ease in the time they have left. If this message resonates with you, let me know in the comments by writing number 2. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do so and turn on notifications. We're here to provide comfort, understanding, and guidance through this journey. Let's move forward together. 3. Increased cognitive confusion or withdrawal, drifting between two worlds. I'll never forget the day my grandfather forgot my name. It was a quiet afternoon, and I had just sat down beside him with a cup of tea, like I always did. He looked at me, his brow furrowed, searching his mind for something that just wasn't there. "I know you," he finally said, his voice hesitant. "But remind me again?" It was a small moment, but it hit me like a wave. This was a man who had once told me stories with such clarity, who could recall details from decades ago as if they had happened yesterday, and now he was struggling to hold on to even the most familiar pieces of his world. As the end of life approaches, these moments of confusion and withdrawal become more frequent. It's not just normal forgetfulness, it's the brain slowly changing, fading, as the body prioritizes only what's most essential. Circulation weakens, oxygen levels drop, and suddenly thoughts don't connect the way they used to. Someone who was once sharp may start repeating themselves, getting lost in familiar places, or staring off into the distance as if caught between past and present. But perhaps even more painful than the forgetfulness is the withdrawal. My grandfather, who once loved long conversations, started speaking less. He spent more time simply sitting, lost in thought, or closing his eyes as if the world around him had become too much. It wasn't that he didn't care anymore. It was that his mind no longer processed emotions and engagement in the same way. The effort of keeping up with conversations, of responding, of being present, it was exhausting. I also noticed changes in his mood. Some days he was irritable over things that never used to bother him. Other times he was eerily calm, detached from everything happening around him. These shifts weren't random, they were part of the brain's way of adjusting as it slowly lets go. For families, this stage can feel heartbreaking. It's as if the person you love is slipping away before they're truly gone. But what I learned is that trying to bring them back doesn't work. What they need most is patience, understanding, and gentle reassurance. Even if they don't always respond, they can still feel your presence. A soft touch on their hand, a familiar song playing in the background, the sound of your voice. It all matters, even if they can't always show it. If you notice a loved one becoming more forgetful, more distant, or struggling to stay engaged, know that this is part of their transition. This is the time to cherish quiet moments, to sit with them without expectations, and to create a space that feels safe and peaceful. Because in the end, even as words and memories fade, love remains. 4. Frequent infections and slow healing when the body begins to let go. I remember when my mother, who had always been strong and resilient, started catching colds that just wouldn't go away. At first, we chalked it up to bad luck. Maybe the flu was going around, or maybe she just needed more rest. But then it became a pattern. A simple sniffle turned into a lingering cough. A small scrape on her arm stayed red and irritated for weeks. It was as if her body had stopped bouncing back like it once had. This is one of the clearest signs that the body is changing. The immune system, once a silent warrior fighting off infections without us even realizing, begins to weaken. Illnesses that were once minor become stubborn and persistent. Cuts, bruises, and sores take far too long to heal. It's not just aging, it's the body slowly shifting its focus away from fighting and repairing, and instead conserving what little energy it has left. One of the biggest concerns at this stage is recurring infections. Pneumonia, urinary tract infections, UTIs, and even skin irritations can become frequent and harder to treat. What once required a simple course of antibiotics might now need multiple rounds of medication with little improvement. The body just doesn't respond the same way anymore. And sometimes, infections don't even show up in the usual ways. There might not be a high fever or obvious symptom. Instead, a sudden wave of exhaustion, confusion, or loss of appetite might be the first clue that something is wrong. I remember sitting with my mother one afternoon, noticing how quiet she had become. She wasn't in pain, but she just seemed distant. It wasn't until later that we realized she had an infection that had gone unnoticed. This is why it's so important to pay attention, not just to physical symptoms, but to changes in energy, mood, or alertness. Sometimes, those are the only signs the body gives. Slow healing is another overlooked warning. When circulation weakens, oxygen and nutrients don't reach the skin and tissues as efficiently, making even the smallest wounds take forever to close. If your loved one starts developing sores, especially if they're less mobile, it's a sign that their body is struggling to maintain itself. Pressure sores can become dangerous if not carefully managed, and at this stage, comfort and care matter more than ever. For families, it's heartbreaking to watch. The instinct is to fight, to push for stronger treatments, more hospital visits, another dose of medicine. But there comes a time when the focus shifts from curing to comforting. Instead of chasing aggressive treatments that may only prolong suffering, sometimes the best thing we can do is make sure they are hydrated, comfortable, and surrounded by love. Keeping their skin moisturized, ensuring they are clean and warm, and simply being present can do more than any medication ever could. If someone you love is experiencing frequent infections, slow healing, or unexplained fatigue, it may be their body's way of letting go. This is the time to shift priorities, to cherish the quiet moments, to hold their hand, and to focus on quality of life over quantity of days. Because in the end, what truly matters is that they feel safe, cared for, and at peace. 5. Major changes in breathing and circulation. As someone nears the final stage of life, you may start noticing significant changes in their breathing and circulation. If you are caring for a loved one, you might see that their breathing becomes slower, shallower, or even irregular. Sometimes they may pause between breaths, or their breathing may speed up and slow down unpredictably. A common pattern known as Cheyne-Stokes respiration involves alternating cycles of deep, rapid breaths followed by long pauses. These changes may begin subtly, but tend to become more noticeable over time. Circulation also weakens during this stage. You may feel that their hands, feet, or even their nose and ears start to feel cold. Their skin may take on a pale, bluish, or mottled appearance, especially on the fingers and toes. This happens because the body is prioritizing blood flow to vital organs, reducing circulation to the extremities. It's a natural sign that the heart is no longer pumping as strongly as before. You might also notice that even small movements make them short of breath. Sitting up, talking, or shifting positions might leave them feeling winded. They may breathe more through their mouth or need to pause to catch their breath while speaking. If they once moved easily around the room but now struggle to do so, their lung function may be declining. In some cases, fluid buildup in the lungs can make breathing even more difficult. This can lead to persistent coughing, gurgling sounds, or a tight feeling in the chest. Many people assume it's just congestion from a cold, but in elderly individuals or those nearing the end of life, it's often a sign of weakening lungs. Lying flat may become uncomfortable, and they might prefer to sleep propped up with pillows or in a recliner to help with breathing. For family members, witnessing these changes can be frightening. It's natural to want to help, maybe by encouraging them to take deeper breaths or worrying that something urgent is happening. But in most cases, this is simply the body's way of slowing down. While you can't always stop these changes, you can help make them more comfortable. Keeping the room cool, using a humidifier, or offering small sips of water can help ease their discomfort. In some situations, medications or oxygen therapy may provide relief, but the focus shifts from fixing the issue to ensuring comfort. If you notice these signs, changes in breathing, cold hands and feet, or a bluish tint to the skin, pay close attention. These are often indicators that the body is conserving energy and circulation is slowing down. This is a time to be present, to offer reassurance, and to create a peaceful environment where they feel safe and loved. In these final weeks or months, the most important thing you can provide isn't medical intervention, it's comfort, dignity, and the knowledge that they are not alone. 6. Decreased appetite and fluid intake. As the body approaches the end of life, one of the most noticeable changes is a significant decrease in appetite and fluid intake. You may observe that your loved one no longer has the same interest in food, eats much smaller portions, or even refuses to eat altogether. They might take only a few bites of their favorite meal before pushing it away, or they may prefer soft foods and liquids over solid meals. This isn't necessarily a sign of discomfort, it's simply the body's natural way of slowing down and conserving energy. Drinking less is also common. They may sip water infrequently or have trouble swallowing, leading them to take in far fewer fluids than before. This can cause dry lips, a sticky mouth, and reduced urination. While dehydration might sound alarming, at this stage it's often part of the body's process rather than something to be corrected aggressively. For family members, it can be difficult to see a loved one eat and drink so little. You may feel the urge to encourage them to eat more, fearing that they are becoming weaker because of it. However, forcing food or fluids may cause discomfort, especially if their digestive system is slowing down. Instead, the best approach is to offer gentle support. Keep their lips moist, provide ice chips or small sips of water, and respect their body's needs. It's important to remember that this decline in appetite isn't a rejection of life or a sign of suffering. The body is simply shifting focus away from digestion to preserve energy for essential functions. Rather than worrying about full meals, focus on comfort. Offer their favorite flavors in small amounts, use lip balm to prevent dryness, and ensure they remain as comfortable as possible. Not recognizing and accepting this change can be emotional, but it is a natural part of the process. Your presence, reassurance, and care matter more than any meal. In these moments, what they need most is not food but love, comfort, and the knowledge that they are not alone. As we wrap up this video, I want you to take a deep breath and reflect on everything we've talked about. Significant weight loss, extreme fatigue, cognitive decline, frequent infections, and major changes in breathing and circulation. These aren't just medical signs, they're the body's way of preparing for its final transition. If you've started noticing these changes in someone you love, I know how hard that realization can be. It's emotional, it's overwhelming, and it's okay to feel unsure about what comes next. When we see a loved one growing weaker, our instinct is often to do more, encourage them to eat, to move, to fight against the changes. But sometimes the greatest act of love isn't about fixing, it's about understanding. It's about being there, holding their hand, and making sure they feel comforted and cared for in their remaining time. The goal isn't to stop what's happening, it's to make every moment as peaceful and meaningful as possible. This journey isn't just about them, it's about you too. It's about preparing your heart, finding support, and knowing that you are not alone in this. If you're going through this with a loved one right now, I want you to know that there are people who understand, who have walked this path, and who are here to support you. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What part of today's discussion resonated with you the most? How are you feeling about what we've shared? Drop a comment below. I read every single one, and your thoughts truly matter. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need this message today. Your support means everything, and it helps us continue creating content that informs, encourages, and reminds you that you are never alone on this journey. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.